Hi, it's Alex from Android Central, and this is the Nexus 5. The Nexus 5 is Google's new flagship phone made by LG and running the new Android 4.4 KitKat software. We've been very slowly getting to know the Nexus 5 through a bunch of pre-release leaks, but now it's official and we've got it in our hands and this is what it looks like. It's a rather unassuming 5-inch slab from the front, but turn it round and you're greeted by this rather large Nexus logo and equally large camera lens that protrudes ever so slightly out of the back. The back panel itself is covered in soft touch plastic which extends around the sides. It's a bit of a change of pace compared to the earlier Nexus 4. It's generally plastic that your hand's in contact with, not glass or rubber, but it feels solid and the back panel has a soft finish to it, unlike the Nexus 7, which feels a little bit rougher. Side by side with the Nexus 4, you can definitely appreciate the change in shape. The 5 is taller, thinner, and just a little bit wider. The change in materials means you don't get this shiny reflective pattern, but it should also mean it won't get scratched up or randomly slide its way off flat surfaces like the Nexus 4 does. No real surprises in terms of ports or buttons. You've got power on the right, underneath it is a SIM tray, volume on the left, and of course on-screen buttons, so nothing to see down here before it's turned on. Besides that, you've got micro USB down below, along with a couple of speakers and a headphone jack up top. Past Nexus devices have used high-end CPUs, and this one's no exception. It's running a Snapdragon 800 CPU with 2GB of RAM, and we've already seen how capable this chip is in devices like the Galaxy Note 3 and Xperia Z1. So naturally the Nexus 5 is a very fast device. As you'd expect from a Nexus, there's no expandable storage, but you can choose from 16 or 32GB of built-in memory. Powering the new Nexus is a fixed 2300 mAh battery, and like the last one, it also has Qi wireless charging support. The rear camera is an 8MP unit with optical image stabilization, and there's also a basic 1.3MP front facer. It's going to take some time to get a good idea of how it performs under various lighting conditions, but first impressions are that it's at least good, and the OIS should help compensate for hand motion. Nexus devices have never been the best cameras, but with Google marketing the Nexus 5 as a device for capturing important moments, hopefully that's now changed. The screen is a 5-inch 1080p IPS panel that's bright and clear and generally looks great, though maybe not quite as vivid as the likes of the HTC One and Galaxy Note 3. In any case, it is a substantial improvement on the dark and washed out display of the Nexus 4. So that's the hardware: big screen, high-end internals, and a plastic casing that feels nice, but is still very much plastic. Perhaps more important is the software, and Android 4.4 KitKat is the biggest change to the OS since the Ice Cream Sandwich release a couple of years ago. Visually, the system UI is a lot more muted, with whites and greys in place of the old hollow blue. That's a good thing. It's a step away from the sci-fi style design that dates back to the Honeycomb release of Android, and in general, KitKat looks a lot more professional. There are some new animated flourishes, and Google Now can now be accessed by swiping to the right from your main home screen, though you can still get to it at any time by swiping up from the bottom of the screen. And if that's too much work for you, you can also say OK Google on any of the launcher pages to search for stuff or use voice controls, though that'll only work if you have Google Search set up to use US English. Certain apps can now make the notification bar and on-screen buttons transparent, which allows you to take full advantage of the full screen area a bit more often. For example, in the launcher you can see your wallpaper, and in Google Now you can see a few more cards. In most apps, however, you'll still have an opaque black background. The new immersive mode is also worth mentioning. In apps like Google Play Books, it lets you get a full screen experience and completely get rid of the system UI and just view your content. This works just like a lot of Samsung phones with a swipe down gesture from the top to bring back the UI. The phone app has been retooled as well, with a bunch of new intelligent features based around finding new numbers as well as the ones currently in your phone book, essentially like having a yellow pages on your phone. If you get a call from an unrecognized number, Google will look up and display matching business names, which is a really neat little feature, and it's nice to see basic apps like this aren't being neglected as Android becomes more advanced. Google Hangouts is now your default messaging app, and that means it handles SMS as well as Hangout messages and video calls. So the old Android messaging app has been completely rolled into this. You'll get text appearing alongside Hangout messages, though there is now an officially supported option to change your default SMS app. What's also pretty cool is the ability to share your location over Hangouts with a single button tap. The new Google Photos is technically part of Google Plus and will be coming to other phones through the Play Store, but it's worth a mention because it ties into the photography-centric marketing message that Google's pushing with the Nexus 5. It handles all your photos on Google Plus and lets you create short video highlight clips of your albums with filters and music. If this sounds familiar, it's because it's basically a straight-up clone of the HTC One's video highlight feature. It works pretty well. You can save to local storage as well as Google+, and even if you don't use Google+, it's a pretty neat feature to have. Android 4.4 introduces some new productivity-focused features too. There's a new framework for handling different types of cloud storage, and opening files in these places is a bit easier as a result. The Nexus 5 is preloaded with QuickOffice and Google Drive, and you can see how these two work together here. There's also a printing framework that supports HP and Google Cloud printing, and that serves as an easy way to save things as PDFs as well. Google says it's worked to reduce the memory footprint of Android and introduce new performance tweaks for phones with less RAM. At the same time, it's also talking about improved, faster multitasking because of the way KitKat handles memory. All we can really say is that the Nexus 5 feels incredibly fast, likely due to hardware and software in equal measure. The fast performance combined with the new look stock Android make for a really enjoyable user experience. You've got tweaked fonts, new larger icons, a lighter colour scheme, and some really nice looking stock wallpapers too. And unless the camera turns out to be a complete dud, this is definitely going to be one of the best Android phones on the market for the foreseeable future. So that's going to wrap up our first look at the Nexus 5 and Android 4.4 KitKat. It's on sale now for $350 in the US, £299 in the UK, and for that price there's really no better phone you can buy. For sure, the Nexus 5 isn't the best at everything it does, and there are parts of the bare-bones Android UI that are still lacking, the camera app being a big example. But the overall vanilla Android experience has vastly improved in KitKat, introducing new features where it makes sense without cluttering things up, and refining the stock UI into something brighter and more attractive. So we're going to put the Nexus 5 through its paces in the days ahead, and we'll have a full review for you written up soon. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.